Hey, it's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I have some more chord switching tips and tricks for you that will speed up your switches and help them become automatic, allowing you to focus on all those other really important musical things like rhythm or singing or whatever it may be. I already made a lesson like this where I went over what I would call the common finger switches, where you leave one or more fingers down. I'll put a link to that in the corner and down below. Today, we're going to be covering what I would call multi-step switches. And the first one, this is one of the most important ones and also one of the trickiest ones for beginners. Switching from G to C. So we're starting off on G, and we're going to lift our fingers, but we're not going to completely leave the fretboard. We're just going to lift them a bit, and I like to get my index down first, then my middle, then my ring. And you just do that over and over again, thinking index, middle, ring. Index, middle, ring. You know, with these ones, you really have to work through it and get it into the muscle memory. And I would commit to doing it that way for like a month. And if you find that it doesn't work, a really good trick is to start learning it in a different order. Sometimes that helps it, you know, by attacking it from multiple angles. So in that case, you would go ring, middle, index. Ring, middle, index. Those are the two orders. With C, it's pretty straightforward, although C is one of the trickiest chords for beginners. I actually don't recommend learning it in your first song because there's so many ways for it to kind of get muted, and it's really tough to play. Instead, if you haven't actually learned a complete song yet from start to finish, I have a crash course. It's completely free. It's a 14-day course that'll teach you easy versions of these chords, and I'll teach you real songs that you're going to recognize. You know, it's a great way to get a head start on your guitar journey, or maybe if you've tried in the past but you just can't seem to make things click. This is designed to help you with all that, and it's completely free, no strings attached. I'll put a link to that in the corner and down below. Anyways, next is A to D. And for that one, we have our A chord, playing it like this. Sometimes people play it with one finger, but if you're at that point, you probably don't need my advice on switching chords. You're probably pretty good at it. We're going to start with A this way. We leave our ring finger down and we slide up one fret, and then we can pretty comfortably make our D chord. And then we just make the return trip the same way, sliding that ring finger back down and making our A chord. If you've taken my crash course or checked out my free ebook, you'll know that we play the chord switching game where we go 1, 2, switch, switch, 1, 2, switch, back. I recommend doing that for all the chords here that appeal to you. Don't just practice these all by rote. Pick a song that uses them. You know, I have a list of easy 2-chord songs, 3-chord songs on my website. I'll put a link to that. You can kind of just pick a song. There'll be a lesson for it where I'll teach you the whole thing, all the stuff. And then you work on the switches that way, keeping these little tricks in mind. Anyways, our next one is A to G, and it uses the similar trick. We have our A chord. We're going to slide our ring finger up to the 3rd fret, and now we're going to complete the G shape instead. And then coming back to A, we leave our ring finger down, slide it back down. It's the same thing. And next we have A to E. So for this one, I'm going to leave my middle and ring finger down, kind of like Spider-Man. You know, I have those 2 fingers down, and I go up 1, 2 times. Now I'm on the A string and the D string. You could just play E minor, or you could add your index finger and play E major. So A, whether you're going to E major or E minor, uses the exact same concept. Your middle and ring, you go up 1, 2, and you make your shape. And that's that. And then for going back, you just move them back and finish your A shape. And the whole point with these multi-step switches is to be consistent as you switch. Like I said before when we were switching from G to C, you do it the exact same way over and over again until your body just does it without you having to think about it, and eventually without looking. You know, these ones, nothing's really staying down, so you kind of might want to take a peek, but don't let your guitar go like that. Don't let it tilt towards you, or else your wrist is going to get bent. You're going to cinch one of the tunnels, your carpal tunnel or your cubital tunnel, whichever one, you know, or both of them, and it rubs all the tendons. Sounds kind of gross, and it's not good for you. So please, you know, Posture is really important when you're doing repetitive motions. We still have quite a few to cover here. Next we have C to D. So we start off on C, and I'm gonna take my ring and middle, and I'm gonna move them all the way to the edge of the fretboard. That gives us 2/3 of our D chord. My index finger plugs the hole. And for switching back, remove our index, put those 2 fingers back. So I'm really focusing on my ring and middle and moving them all the way across or along the fretboard to the end. And D to E. For this one, we're gonna leave our index finger down, slide it to the 1st fret. We can make the E shape. Lift those 2 fingers, slide our index back up to the 2nd fret, make the D shape. There's a song by Link Ray called Rumble. It's just those 2 chords, so that'd be a really good one to practice that with. Next we have A minor to E minor. This is a really, really comfortable switch. We're starting on our A minor chord. We're gonna leave our index down for a sec while we take our middle and ring and we put them up towards the A and D strings, and then we remove our index. So A minor, E minor. That could be one of the first switches you learn on guitar because it's so straightforward. And then for going back, you just reverse the steps. For all of these, the steps are reversible, which is really cool. And then we have A minor to D minor. And for that one, we take our A minor shape and we put the whole thing up towards the thinner strings, and then we just poke out our ring finger. So we have our A minor shape, we drag it all down so we're on the 3 thinnest strings, put our ring finger up, or put your pinky there. I prefer doing it that way just because, I don't know, it works with my physiology, I suppose. And then, last but not least, we have A to B7, which you're gonna come across in a lot of like Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, kind of Willie Nelson country stuff. If we play our A chord like this, the most standard way, we're gonna have to remove our index finger, and then we move our middle and ring finger up a couple times and spread them apart as we move them up so that we get them onto the A string and the G string. So in one smooth motion, I go like that, moving those 2 fingers from where they are on the A chord into the B7 chord, and then I add my pinky and I add my index finger. And I like adding my pinky first because that one feels a bit tougher to get in, to get the right position for. So I like to give it priority, kind of help it out, because the pinky's like a little tiny, weak finger compared to the rest of them. So once again, I get my middle and ring down, and then I add my pinky and my index, and I just do that over and over again. I'm gonna actually write down all of these switches from the last lesson too. I'm just gonna make one big sheet that just has all the instructions, like this finger first, and I'm gonna post that maybe on my Patreon page or on my website. I'll figure that out in a minute as soon as I'm done filming this lesson. Sorry to break the 4th wall, but note to self. Anyways, the other way is if you play the A chord like this, which I kind of prefer, using my middle, ring, and pinky, switching to B7, we just leave our ring finger down, spread out our middle finger up 1 string and our pinky down 1 string. And I find that's a really smooth way to do it. And I find myself playing A lot like that because my pinky's smaller, so I can squeeze my fingers up a bit better than I can if I'm using my 3 primary fingers. Now, these tips and tricks are helpful for shaving those milliseconds off your switching, but something even more important is being able to put everything together. Being able to strum with a steady rhythm, to switch the chords at the right time, and most importantly, to use this stuff to play songs. And if you're looking for an easy step-by-step path, something where you simply follow along and you get the results on guitar, I have a course, Learn Guitar Once and For All. It's designed to take you from 0 to confident strummer. I'll put a link down below for that. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, or even just pop in to say hi. And while you're down there, if you could take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.